It's the Sean Widmer Podcast. It's a journal by someone that just really doesn't like to write.
It's a new week of podcasts for me. I don't know when you're listening to this. If you're listening to it when it came out on Monday or Tuesday at the beginning of the week, I hope your weekend was good. If you're listening far down in the future, I hope your weekend was still good, the last one that you had, or the one you're in currently. Thank you for tuning in. It means a lot to me. We'll get into why that is in a second. We're going to talk about one of the biggest things I think is going on right now in America. We're going to talk about a little bit of our weekend here in Kentucky, something big that happened. It's thank goodness for it. Some recommendations for you and some recommendations. A recommendation in Kelly's What Are You Into? We're going to touch on the sports side, the family side, the nerdy video game side. I did want to give a shout out right off the bat to the folks who reached out and said they enjoyed this weekend's Patreon episode. I enjoyed recording it with my wife. We talked about all sorts of stuff. That goes out on Patreon on the weekends. I try to do at least one a week, a Patreon episode. So for those of you who support the podcast, thank you, first of all, for supporting the podcast. It means a ton to me. Patreon.com/Sean Widmer Podcast, and you get the bonus episode. Thank you for supporting it, and then thanks for listening to the weekend podcasts. I enjoy them. I think they're fun, and it means a lot to everyone who's just listening today. I thought about this weekend because I know the saying is out there, everyone has a podcast. Everybody has a podcast. Well, something that I saw this weekend makes that even more true. So the fact that you're listening to this one, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for taking time to tune into this. Thank you to the folks who take the time to comment on it, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify or over at seanslife.com. It means so much to me. And I was watching this weekend Welcome to Wrexham. I was so excited because the new season of Welcome to Wrexham came out, season 3. And I've really enjoyed that show. And so I was real excited to sit down and watch season 3, the beginning of it. And funny, I went to watch the first episode and I was like, okay, what happened at the end of season 2? And at that moment, I realized when I went onto Hulu to see what episode, the last episode I watched, I'd only made it 6 episodes into season 2. And then I think we moved. So at the end of summer, I stopped watching with the chaos of moving from Spokane to Lexington, and I just forgot to finish the season. I thought I had finished it because I had followed Wrexham's football team, and I knew how season 2 ended, which is really weird because that docuseries, I think is spectacular, whether you're a sports fan or even not a sports fan. Rob McElhaney from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Ryan Reynolds from famous stuff like Deadpool and Van Wilder and you know who Ryan Reynolds is. They buy a soccer team over in England, and their goal is to get them from the lower tier that they're at and see how many tiers up in the soccer pyramid they can get this team. It's a very cool concept by spending a lot of money, getting a lot of players, and just see what they can do. It's a very fun experiment. And so season 1 was great because you didn't know what was going to happen. And I don't want to spoil it just in case you've never seen it, and I really think you should go watch it. It's really, really well done documentary. I will say it's got a lot of language in it, so if you don't like a lot of language, this isn't one to sit down with the family and go, hey, Sean said to sit down and watch this one. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things in there you don't want the kids to go to school saying the next day. But season 1, we had no idea what was going to happen. And then, of course, after the season 1 is done, so many people are excited about Wrexham football. And so, I mean, me included, I started following them on all of my sports apps. ESPN started showing games. And so I followed along live while it was happening with their second season and knew what was going to happen before season 2 of the documentary came out. So it's a weird thing where season 1, no one knows what's going to happen, and you get to watch it happen. I guess you could have Googled it and found out, but you hadn't lived it yet because no one was following Wrexham football. So season 2, we've all followed. We know what's going to happen. And I was curious how they were going to cover that. They did a spectacular job. Spectacular. Even knowing what happens at the end, I'm captivated every single episode. I loved it. So needless to say, I'm still catching up on season 2. I did not get to start season 3 yet. I didn't have enough time just to blow through all the second half of season 2, but I think I'm going to be able to wrap it up today or tomorrow. Just an episode here, an episode there tonight. And it's a really, really well done show. It's what sparked my brain a couple weeks ago with the college basketball thing. The more I watch Welcome to Wrexham, the more I need this to happen with a college basketball team, because now that you can spend money on these college sports, when you watch Wrexham, if you put yourself in a mindset of, ooh, what if somebody did this in the States? It would be pretty cool. It would be pretty cool. I don't think it would be as cool as Welcome to Wrexham because of how the structure is in the football leagues over there. I think this show is also really, really well done if you're not a sports fan. That's one of the things I'm impressed with how they do the docuseries. Obviously, at the heart of the show, it is about sports. But they make it so little about sports. I mean, they get you captivated with, will they win this game, the importance of winning this game, some of the contract stuff. But they make this docuseries about people, the players, the coaches, and then the part that's really fun, the diehard fans, the rival fans, the city itself that they're in on. It's a really well done docuseries. I can't speak highly enough about it. I don't think I need to because probably most of you have heard of it and liked it, so I'm kind of just preaching to the choir. But Welcome to Wrexham is awesome. I was glad to spend some of my weekend with it this weekend, and I'm real excited to get caught up and be able to watch the first 2 episodes of Season 3 that were released last Thursday. It's great. All of that to say, inside of Season 2, because in Season 1, Wrexham blew up, right? Wrexham football blew up. The amount of scenes they have of people going on podcasts is crazy. There are multiple fans who have podcasts covering Wrexham football, and then they show a bunch of the players have their own podcasts, okay? So there's probably 6 or 7 podcasts they show just inside of this series, and that's just what made my eyes open up. Like, we know the saying, everybody has a podcast, and a lot of time that's used as kind of a joke. I always have felt immune to it because I started my podcast in 2005 when nobody had a podcast, so I've always felt grandfathered past it. That said, I have a very unsuccessful podcast since 2005. So I also can't really, I don't really have legs to stand on, but I always feel like, oh, everyone has a podcast. Well, I was there or before you. And then the people who came in late are like, yeah, but we're kicking your butt. I'm like, yeah, okay. So anyways, thank you for taking time to listen to this one. That means a lot. Anthony Edwards is the thing that matters the most in the sports world right now, though. As great as Wrexham is, as great as the Kentucky Derby stuff this weekend that I saw all over the place. I did not go to the Kentucky Derby. I was with the kiddos this weekend. Someday I'll go over there to Louisville and we'll check it out and see it live. I think it'll be very enjoyable. Anthony Edwards is everything. The Minnesota Timberwolves take down the Denver Nuggets in the first game of their second round series in the Western Conference. And Anthony Edwards is must-watch TV. He is put it in your calendar TV. And I think he's I don't think there's no stretch of like, oh, he's the next greatest player, and you're just kind of throwing it out there and going out on a limb. I think the most obvious statement is he's the next greatest thing. It's really wonderful because the torch has been passed on successfully in basketball in a really wild way. MJ dominates the late 80s and the 90s, and then Kobe Bryant is kind of this buffer for a little bit while MJ is at the end of his career, and Kobe's great, and Kobe wins a lot of titles. Kobe's really, really great. But LeBron comes in the early 2000s, so there's this window between MJ and LeBron where Kobe, I think, fills in the void. Then LeBron comes in, and LeBron is just LeBron, right? So I guess you could even go further back than that. You go Wilt Chamberlain to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem hands the reins off to MJ. MJ, then LeBron comes in. And the timing on these is great, where it's right at the end of the career, the next great one comes in. LeBron's been great for 300 years, and towards the tail end of LeBron's career, Anthony Edwards shows up, and he's about to be the next one of these guys. It's really crazy how that has worked out in the league. And there really hasn't been a ton of years where there are two dudes, like we make up, as sports fans, there would be times where you're like, okay, well, is KD as good as LeBron this year? Is Steph as good as LeBron this year? And yes, there was years where Steph was better than LeBron. There were years where KD was better than LeBron. But at the crux of it, LeBron was the king of the NBA. And we were just out there looking for who else is really good. That happened with MJ when MJ was playing. MJ is the best player in the league, but there would be seasons you're like, okay, well, who else is really good right now? And there were some great players in the MJ eras that had unbelievable seasons, unbelievable careers. That's the exact same with during LeBron's tenure, right? Steph's always going to go down as the best of all time. And now Anthony Edwards, though, picks up the slack. And he, I think, is going to be your anchor to the next 20 years, 18 years of basketball. He's 22 years old as the guy. It's his time. He's going to run the league. And sure, over the course of the next 18 years, there's going to be players that pop in, and they're great, and that's going to be wonderful. But it's so nice to be an NBA fan knowing there is a guy who is here to take the torch that has been passed on to be the anchor for the next 18 years. That's really good for the NBA. And he was awesome against Denver on, Saturday? I'm already so excited for the rest of the games in the series. You can't miss them. The Minnesota Timberwolves are awesome on defense. They're all hustle guys. I don't want to sit here and break down basketball because that's not necessarily what this podcast is. I mean, I could. One of the things I did want to say, and I was very thankful for it watching the game this weekend, I have to give a shout out to Reggie Miller on the broadcast team and Jamal Crawford. I was not a big Reggie Miller fan in his playing days because I always cheered against the Pacers. And I did love Jamal Crawford, loved. But these two guys did something in game one that I thought was very important because this series is going to be extremely physical and there's a lot of attitudes on both sides. And when this game tipped off, you could tell energy was high and emotions were high. And that's really fun as a sports fan to get to watch. And Anthony Edwards has a lot of pizzazz, a lot of charisma, a lot of attitude. It really makes him fun to watch. And he had a play where he scored on somebody. Was it a dunk? I'm forgetting if it was a dunk or just an awesome play, but I think it was a dunk. And he turned, and I forget who it was that he dunked on, Reggie Jackson or something like that. And he might have said one little thing to him, and then he kind of stared him down for about 2 seconds and then ran back down the court. Like, yeah, man, we're here. We're in it. Little attitude, little trash talk, which I think is so wonderful for the game. And the referees teed him up. They teed him up and they popped a bubble that didn't need to be popped. This tension inside of this NBA playoff game where it's palpable through your TV. And you want that. We want that for the game. We want to feel the energy. We want to feel a little bit of the anger. We want to feel that it matters to these guys. And the referees popped the bubble. And it wasn't like Anthony Edwards went over the top. And I really appreciated Reggie Miller and Jamal Crawford because for the rest of the game on national television, they continually brought up how bad of a call that was, how dumb it was that the technical happened. And I think that matters because I think that will get out to the higher powers in the NBA. Because when you watched it on TV, you could feel the energy drop just a second, right? You could feel what was building this to a crescendo of Anthony Edwards just going bonkers because he was starting to get in this groove. You could feel him take that out, which the NBA does not want. So I think that was important for Reggie Miller and Jamal Crawford to spend an entire game. I'm sure they got phone calls saying, don't do that again, because they're not supposed to criticize refs a ton. I appreciate that they do, right? Keep them honest a little bit. But this is going to make its way back, and the refs are going to swallow their whistle a little more so that we can get a more intense series. So shout out to Reggie Miller, Jamal Crawford, doing their job well. I think that, setting this series up for what we want it to be, which is just a bunch of guys who are the best at their craft, who want it so badly, getting in each other's way. And when you show somebody up, you're going to let them know about it. Well done to the broadcast team. It's gonna make the rest of this series just that much more intense and that much more must watch. Okay, enough basketball. 2 things for you. I really wanted to have a fun day on Star Wars Day on Saturday. May the 4th be with you, right? It's so cheesy of a saying, but it's wonderful because I love Star Wars. And I was like, how am I going to get my kids into Star Wars? I want them to be there. Shout out to Disney Plus. We ran into Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. Huck was out. He didn't care. All he wants to watch is kids play with Hot Wheels toys. Really, all he wants to watch is this one guy who puts like pudding on the cars, the Hot Wheels cars from the movie Cars, and then he dumps them in water and then cleans them off and pulls the car out, and you get to see what car it is, and he shows a clip of that car from the Disney movie. My son would watch that the entire day. It's so dumb. But he loves it. Oh, and you can tell it's Mater, Huck. That shape is Mater. And he's like, who is it? And then the guy dumps the thing in the water, cleans like the chocolate pudding off. It's supposed to look like dirt. I don't know. And then he cleans it off and pulls it out of the water, and it's Mater, and Huck's like, it is Mater. And you're like, whatever, dude. But my daughter, she can get into a show. And so we watched Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures this weekend. And my daughter is in on lightsabers. She was asking Star Wars questions, asking why they were moving stuff with their minds. I was like, that's the Force, Olivia. That's the Force. We're learning. So thank you to Disney for getting my daughter in a little bit on Star Wars. And then thanks to my in-laws for doing something on Sunday that I didn't realize how badly I needed. My son is a ball of energy, an absolute ball of energy, and he's a wrecking ball. This weekend, he decided to try to do a jump off of our ottoman, and he had been jumping onto the couch, from the ottoman to the couch. My daughter and son love doing this, and my son suddenly got this brilliant idea. He could do the same jump where you jump and belly flop onto the couch. He just figured, I'm going to do it onto the ground. And so I'm kind of standing in the kitchen, and I'm getting dinner ready, and I'm watching them, and then we've got some music going, and so my daughter's doing dance moves, and she's jumping from the ottoman to the couch. She's getting Huck to do it with her, and all of a sudden I look over, and he's facing on the ottoman, facing not towards the couch, but just towards nothing. And I'm thinking, what are you going to do? You're not going to jump, and if you jump, you're going to land on your feet, and he belly flopped right onto the ground. Gave me a good cry for 5-6 minutes, but he's insane. And he's just a boy who's just a knucklehead. And so we have to harness this energy a little bit. We have to find situations to put Huck in where he can be crazy, but also protected. And my in-laws, Jay and Lisa, opened the pool on Sunday. The pool officially opened. And I thought, how is this going to go? So we take the kids out. We put their floaties on. The cousins are there. And I was like, oh, this is not what I want. Because to start it out, Huck really needed Dad next to him. And he needed me to hold his hand, and I didn't really want to get in the pool. He wanted me to hold his hand, though, and just stand right by the pool as he's in his floaties. And after about 10 minutes, he realized, oh, wait, I've got this, and I'm allowed to jump off of the stairs that go into the pool, into the shallow end. And because all the other cousins were there, he realized, if I move my arms a little bit, I can move to things in the pool. And they've got some fun pool toys, like a little boat, right? Some floaty basketballs and stuff. And so Huck started to realize, I can move my arms and get to these things. And he didn't need Dad anymore. And I didn't realize how badly we needed Jay and Lisa's swimming pool until yesterday, but Huck needs it because he can go nuts. And he can do his belly flop jumps that he wants to do onto the ground. He can do it into the water, and he's fine. And he did for hours. He just would get out of the pool, run, jump in, crash into the water, pull his head up, wondering where he was, start laughing, do it again for hours. And the man slept till 8 o'clock today. So we didn't realize how badly we needed the pool for Huck, but it is sort of the padded device needed. Now, I'm still terrified of pools with kids, but I don't have to be in the pool. I can sit on the side, talk to my brother-in-laws, sister-in-laws, my in-laws, and we can just watch, right? We can just watch the kids. Because, again, I'm terrified of pools, but I can keep my eyes on him without having to be right there holding his hand, and I can just enjoy watching my son have a great time. Now, the pool always makes me feel like summer is getting here, and in Kentucky, we're getting closer. We're nearing it. And with summer, I always have this urge to play board games and teach board games, and there's 2 of them I really want to get my in-laws into, and there's 2 that I'd recommend to you as we head into those months. Dixit is a game I think I've talked about on the podcast before. Some of you may have played it too much and you're like, I'm OD'd on it. But you know what? If you haven't, Dixit must get game. If you have a family situation this year, that's awesome. You get a bunch of cards that are random pictures. Everyone gets these cards. The person whose turn it is says a word to describe one of their cards. You try not to get too in depth. And then everyone looks at their cards in their hands that have all these random pictures on them. Everyone submits a card that they think is it a good example of the phrase or word that was said by the leader. And then the leader takes all the cards, places them all face down, and everyone votes on which one they think the leader was talking about when you said your descriptive phrase. And then points are given out based on, if you tricked someone into voting for your card and if you got the right one. There's like that. But that's an easy way to describe Dixit. Highly recommend it. There's a ton of bonus packs out there because the game comes with a certain amount of these pieces of art, and it's a lot of them, but you'll go through them pretty quick. Well, Dixit's old enough now, you can get a ton of these bonus packs and have a stack of cards a mile high, and it's really awesome game. So Dixit, number 1, if you're trying to get into some family board games this summer. And then I really enjoy the new version of the game Wavelength. Now, there's an old version from the mid-2000s that I love, but it's not being made anymore. And it's very weird. A new game with the same name came out, Wavelength. And the new one, I think, is cool. You separate into two teams, and there's a big wheel that has an indicator on it. It's kind of like, it would be like a bullseye, but not in the middle. It's hard to explain it. I guess it would be like a dartboard. And it's got the little pieces of pie from the center of the board, the circle, up to the top, like a dartboard. And in the middle of it is like 5 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, whatever. And the way the game works is one of the teams takes this wheel and secretly they spin it, and then your target values pop up on the board, on the top half of the circle, okay? It's really hard to explain. But the whole game works where they spin it, and then one person from your team who's trying to guess a clue gets to look at the board, and they see, oh, okay, the target value is 3/4 of the way on the left. So if you are, that's so hard to explain. If you've got a circle cut in half, you've got on one side, that would be like, I don't know. How do you describe this game? Just go look up Wavelength tutorial. Anyways, it's a fun game where you're trying to get your team to guess clues based on one side of a wheel is, let's say it's easy, and one side represents hard. This changes every round. Again, I'm not making any sense. And so you just go look up Wavelength. Learn how to, there's a tutorial video that's 5 minutes long. Learn how to play Wavelength in 5 minutes. I think that's what it's called. And you can go watch that. I think Wavelength is an awesome family game. It really works well with people that you know, because you get to try to like get into your teammate's mind. Oh, I know that person. I know what they're going to try to what they're trying to describe. It's a really fun game. Wavelength. Dixit Wavelength. Get them. Thank me later. Can we do this real quick?
Kelly's, what are you into?
Video game nerds, there's something that started last week that I've got to tell you about. If you're not a video game nerd, I apologize. But if you are, this has been fun for me. I'm already excited for tomorrow. I did today's. Unfortunately, I woke up in the middle of the night. And when I woke up in the middle of the night, I did this game. And so now I have to wait till tomorrow to do it again. And I wish I would have waited till I was not groggy to play it. But there's a website gamers know about called HowLongToBeat. And this website's valuable because if you're getting older like me and you don't have a lot of free time, but you want to play a video game and try to beat it, this website, when you type in any game, it will tell you how long it takes to beat the main story of the game. It tells you how long it takes to beat the main story and any of the side activities you can do in the game, side quests, little fun collectible missions, whatever it might be. And then there's like a completionist time if you're somebody who has to do everything the game offers, everything, the side quests, and find all the collectibles and beat the game. And so How Long to Beat Forever has been a site I go to, just kind of see, okay, do I want to play The Witcher 3? I don't know if I have 45 hours available for it. Okay. Oh, do I want to play, I'm trying to think, Legend of Zelda, Link to the Past? Okay, it's 15 hours. I know I can beat that game in 15 hours. So that's what How Long to Beat was used for a long time. They created they created a game, an app pretty much, that you can play with it. Every day they give you 3 random video games, and you just get to guess the values. How long does it take to beat the game? How long does it take to beat the game with the side quests? How long does it take to get everything in the game? It's really lame, but it's really fun. And you get to see how you do against everybody else who loves that website, HowLongToBeat.com. The website's great anyways for gamers, and now they've added a game to it. It's really fun. So it's like Wordle. It's like kind of a Wordle thing for video game people. Wordle's still great too, by the way. Love it. So there you go. There's my Kelly's What Are You Into? HowLongToBeat.com. Little video game for all you nerds out there. Can we read some comments before we get out of here today? Let's see what we've got on Spotify. 2 of them. Yvonne says this: the multi-purpose vehicle is looking good. Thank you. She says, not a Seinfeld fan. It was okay. Yvonne also says, on Patreon now. We'll listen to the bonuses this weekend on the way to Kelso to watch Andrew wrestle. Thank you for doing that. She did go listen to those. Thank you. In fact, I think she even commented on it and said, caught up on all the Patreon since I became a member. Listened on the way to Kelso. Glad you mentioned tech decks. Yes, Yvonne. Thank you for the tech decks. Who is enjoying them more, me or Huck? I enjoy the tech decks more, Yvonne. Thank you for sending me some. But I can't play with them because my son, the second I touch a toy he has, he comes and takes it. So I like them. I just don't get time to play with them. Yvonne went on to say, had a slip and slide when I was young. No bumpers on mine. Poor Jovi getting older and cranky. Let her be. I did watch Anna and You when I got home. Yeah, you can go watch. By the way, thank you to the new subscribers on YouTube. YouTube.com/Bommarooski. Thank you for that. And yeah, I want to just do a slip and slide with a big tarp because we've got a big hill in our backyard and I don't want to limit the kids to the skinny slip and slide, just a big tarp and let them just go bonkers on it. I think that'd be really fun. Roberta said this, always nice to see Miss Anna on the pod. We just got back from our weekly trip to Costco. I used to promise the kids if they were good while I shopped, they would get a hot dog afterward. That's great. Then when they were old enough to stay home, our Costco trips became our shopping date. For Mark and I usually lunch and shopping together. 20 plus years later, we're still doing it. You have to find your parent time when you can. I'm telling you, Roberta, I think that sounds wonderful. I hope that is what Sam's Club turns into for my wife and me, because I think that sounds very, very enjoyable. Go out, get the grocery shopping done for the week, eat some lunch, and head home. Get some us time where we're talking without the kids constantly interrupting. They're really good at that. They're really, really good at interrupting. Thank you to everyone for listening to the podcast. I hope the beginning of your week starts off very well. Feel free to leave your comments on today's episode so we can get to them on Wednesday. They can be nice. They can be mean. They don't even have to be comments about the episode. They can be shout outs to other people. They can be shout outs to yourself. They can be promoting stuff you're doing, plugs for yourself, whatever random thoughts you want to get off your chest. That's how the comments work. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.